when you're trying to understand the meaning of a Bible passage, when you're doing biblical interpretation, one of the first rules is just to start with the clear, simple, literal meaning of the text. Don't overcomplicate things or jump in to impose all sorts of spiritual meanings when you're missing the most important thing that's staring you in the face. So, for example, in today's gospel, there is a man who is deaf and has a speech impediment. Jesus heals him. What's the meaning? Well, keep it simple. There is a man who is deaf and can hear, who has a speech impediment and can speak. And we learn from that, literally, very clearly, that Jesus is someone who notices others, that he cares for them, that he gives time to them, and specifically, that he wants to bring health and healing to people. This is the gospel. Don't overcomplicate it. And we know that as Christians we're called to be disciples of Jesus Christ, meaning to follow him, or that lovely phrase, to imitate him. To imitate Jesus. And he says, love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. There's a call there in the gospel. This isn't just some later addition to the imitation of Jesus Christ. So we're called to follow him in this particular example. How did he react in this situation to these people, these friends of this man, and to the man himself? Well, do you notice people? Do you notice people? Do you stop and give time to the people that you've noticed who do need your help? In general, all the different people around us, the different ways we notice them, the different kinds of needs that they have. And especially, from this gospel reading, the needs that they have in their sickness or their disability or their isolation. Do you reach out? Do you help them in whatever way you can? Simple. And a clear message here about the importance of caring for the sick in society and in community. Remember that the oldest hospital in London today is Bart's, St Bartholomew's, founded by a Christian pilgrim who visited Rome and had a profound spiritual experience and was inspired to come back and start a hospital right where it is now and build a church because of his faith in Jesus. A huge part of healthcare in this country has been founded on the Christian faith and the gospel passages like this throughout history and today. But it's not just for the healthcare professionals. All of us have a vocation to care for the sick. It's part of the works of mercy that we're all called to. We saw this in the students and Sister Carolyn and Sister Mary who went to Lourdes on pilgrimage. Why did they go? To drink beers in the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning? Yes. That was one of the reasons. But it was not the first reason. It was the third. Yeah? The first reason was to go on pilgrimage in honour of Jesus and Mary in the great shrine of Lourdes. And the second was to care for the sick. Very specifically, to go as pilgrim helpers to care for the needs of the sick in our diocesan pilgrimage. So, our compassion for the sick, our eyes for the people around us, do we notice others? Do we care? Do we reach out to them? There's the obvious meaning. But it's also clear, now we've got that there is a symbolic meaning in the gospel here as well. The man is healed, he hears, and, quote, the ligament of his tongue was loosened, and he spoke clearly. And his friends and he went all over the place speaking about what had happened and what Jesus had done for their friend. So the touch of Christ, the literal touch, touching his ears, did you hear? He touched his ears, he touched his tongue. The literal touch of Christ leads to clarity and speech and sharing the truth of what has happened to you with others. When you meet Christ, things become clear for you, and you long to share that clarity with others. That's, if you like, the symbolic meaning of this text. Lovely connection with yesterday. Many of us here, we were at Adoramus, the wonderful pilgrimage and conference in Liverpool that's taking place this weekend in honour of the Holy Eucharist, of Jesus' presence in the Holy Eucharist. And we heard two wonderful talks by Bishop Robert Barron at the conference. In one talk, he spoke about the rose window in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. An incredible circle of light made up of dozens of individual stained glass images, with Christ at the centre, sitting in the lap of his mother Mary. And Bishop Barron said that when you have Christ at the centre, like in this window, everything else falls into place. It becomes what it's meant to be. It's aligned. And he quoted Aquinas talking about beauty. Aquinas said, apparently, I'm just quoting Bishop Barron, that one of the meanings plural of beauty, when something is beautiful, we see a wholeness. It is what it's meant to be. We see a harmony. All the different bits fit together in harmony, in peace. And also we see a radiance, a clarity, a light, a beauty. It's the same word in the gospel today, isn't it? When he was healed, he spoke clearly, with clarity. His life became beautiful. There is a beauty about human life, my life, your life, when Christ is at the centre. Now look, life is still complicated when you're a Christian. There are 100 things happening out there, but as Bishop Barron said, they are aligned, they fit, they make sense. Without him, the same things, maybe, but there's disorder and confusion and sometimes just plain chaos. See the harmony in that rose window in Notre Dame Cathedral. See the harmony in this man's life when he is healed and set free. And Jesus wants the same for us. He wants the same. Another example of this from yesterday, there were lots of different things going on as well as these talks. And there was an interview with some young people, your age, from Youth 2000. And in fact, they were interviewed by Isaac, who's one of our residents here. He's been here for the last year. So congratulations to Isaac and the team. This young woman, she was very honest about her time at university. She said that at the end of her first year, she was utterly miserable. Everyone had said, oh, these are going to be the best years of your life. And she'd gone in September thinking that. But it just wasn't coming true for her. And she was unhappy and lost. And she said, this is her phrase, not mine, she said she was trapped in an endless cycle of boring lectures, binge-watching Netflix all afternoon, and soul-destroying nights out, clubbing in the evenings. And she felt, one or two smiles from the congregation here, she felt this is not how things are meant to be. Then she said that she did grow up a Christian, and that one day at the end of that first year she just felt drawn to go to church. And she was sitting there in church, and exposition of the Blessed Sacrament was taking place. So if you haven't been to exhibition, when we take the host, Holy Communion, from the tabernacle, and it's put in a beautiful monstrance, a silver or gold display, and it's placed on the altar for us to worship. So she was sitting in the church, and she looked towards the altar, towards the host. And unexpectedly, she said, she wasn't planning or meditating, she just suddenly had a very, very clear understanding that Jesus was present here in Holy Communion, in the church, there with her. She said it was an overwhelming, unexpected experience. that she had this utter conviction in the presence of Jesus Christ with her, and that with that came the knowledge that she was loved by God, that she was his beloved daughter. And all the insecurities of that year instantaneously fell away. All the desperate attempts to be someone for herself or to be someone in the eyes of others, it all disappeared, and she felt at peace, she felt accepted, and the ability to be herself, to be free, because she knew she was loved by God. And then, this is the point of telling the story, you can see how it fits with everything I've said, she was longing to share this with others. She did this in little ways, but then she said, soon after, it was Valentine's Day, and living with 6 other young women, she said there was a little bit of tension in the house. All the insecurities were coming to the surface. Yeah, who's going to give me a card? Who's not going to get a card? What's it say in their card? Does anyone love me, basically? And it wasn't a happy time. So she just rolled her sleeves up and she said, I went to the shop, I bought 6 Valentine's cards. I wrote in them to each of my friends how much they are loved, how beautiful they are, how worthy they are. I set these cards on the table for them. I put into the card an invitation to come to the Catholic Youth 2000 retreat that happened to be that same weekend. Come with me to this. And then, just as a bonus, very important, I left 6 chocolate muffins sitting with the cards. Yeah. She did it. She left them there. She went off to her retreat. She prayed. And when she was sitting in the church at the retreat that evening, she looked behind her, and all 6 of her friends were sitting in the church behind her. Something had spoken to them. Now, where did they go with that? Well, she'd said a little bit, and I'm sure, who knows where they are now. But something had spoken to them through her, because something or someone had spoken to her. It's a beautiful story with a simple point, which is that we never find peace without Christ. And when we put him at the centre, as Bishop Barron said, everything falls into place. It doesn't mean our life is without suffering or without difficulties, but at least we can make sense of it. And it gives us the confidence to be ourselves because we're loved, and it gives us the longing to share that knowledge with others. Our tongue is loosened. Bishop Barron said, every time that someone is touched by God in the Bible, they are sent out on a mission to share it with others. It's true for us. We want that touch, I hope. And I hope that when we are touched by Christ, we're longing that he will speak to others in the same way that he's spoken to us.